Welcome to the Explainer. Let's jump right into the year 60 AH. We're looking at a turning point that literally shook the foundations of human history. This isn't just about the political landscape of the time, it's a monumental chapter that completely defined the ultimate standard of courage, integrity, and sacrifice. Let's get right into it.
Take a second and really think about this. What actually makes a man abandon his home, his absolute sanctuary, and ultimately his life, just to face down a massive, heavily armed empire? It's not a small question, right? This wasn't some random, sudden accident or a simple clash over borders. It was something far, far more profound.
Section 1, The Clash of Ideologies.
The contrast between these two figures, it's literally night and day. You look at Imam Hussain, the grandson of the Prophet, and you see a leader anchored in absolute integrity, prophetic tradition, and a genuine commitment to justice and serving the people. Then you flip the coin to Yazid. He's all about unchecked monarchy, coercion, grabbing worldly wealth, and totally subverting those foundational Islamic principles. Hussain knew. He absolutely knew that if he stayed silent, the true essence of those moral values would be overwritten by tyranny forever.
So, in the dead of night, the governor of Medina hit Hussain with a massive ultimatum from Yazid: pledge allegiance or face death. And Hussain drops this legendary declaration: someone like me cannot give allegiance to someone like him. That single sentence completely drew the line in the sand between truth and falsehood. It wasn't just a no, it was an absolute earthquake for the empire.
Section 2, Leaving the Holy Cities.
Hussain obviously couldn't stay in Medina. He completely refused to let his grandfather's peaceful city turn into a war zone. So he migrates to Mecca, the ultimate sanctuary of peace. But then, on the 8th of Dhul-Hijjah, right as millions of pilgrims are pouring in for the Hajj, he pulls a move that shocks everyone. He converts his Hajj pilgrimage into a lesser pilgrimage, an Umrah, and just leaves the city. Why on earth would you leave the safest place on the planet right at that exact moment?
Well, the reason is terrifying. Yazid had literally sent assassins, disguised in the sacred pilgrim garb, the Ihram, with strict orders to murder Hussain right there inside the Kaaba sanctuary. Think about the gravity of that. Hussain essentially sacrificed his own pilgrimage, his personal safety, and his comfort specifically to guarantee the floors of the Kaaba wouldn't be stained with blood. He valued the sanctity of that holy site way over his own life.
Section 3, The Betrayal of Kufa.
12,000. We're talking 12,000 letters flooding in from the people of Kufa. They were literally begging Hussain to come, writing that their lands were totally ready and they desperately needed him to save them from Yazid's oppression.
And the momentum just keeps building. Hussain sends his trusted cousin and ambassador, Muslim bin Aqil, to check things out. When he gets there, a staggering 8,000 people physically pledge their allegiance to him. The support looked overwhelming. It looked absolute.
But here's the wild part. How do 18,000 swords just disappear overnight? How does an entire city totally flip its allegiance in a matter of hours? Let's look at the brutal tactics that completely broke Kufa.
Enter Ibn Ziyad. Yazid appointed this new, absolutely ruthless governor, and the guy unleashes a terrifying masterclass in psychological warfare. First, he sneaks into Kufa disguised in Hussein's colors, wearing a veil to trick the masses and gauge their loyalty. Once he's locked safely inside the governor's palace, the trap springs. He pulls in the tribal leaders and throws heavy sacks of Damascene gold at them. Pure bribery. And for anyone who won't take the cash, he threatens them with a completely fabricated, massive Syrian army that he claims is marching right toward the city. By weaponizing that intense fear and greed, Ibn Ziyad literally buys the conscience of Kufa. Those 18,000 pledges? Gone. Shattered in an instant.
Section 4. The Lonely Ambassador. Imagine this heartbreaking scene. Muslim bin Aqil has just finished leading the evening prayers in a packed mosque. But while he's praying, Ibn Ziyad's threats are spreading like wildfire outside. The worshippers start slipping away. Muslim finishes, turns around, and nothing. The massive crowd is completely gone. All 18,000 supporters vanished into the shadows. He steps out of the mosque into the treacherous, dark streets of Kufa, utterly and completely alone.
He fought back incredibly bravely, but through sheer deception, he's captured. They take him to the highest tower of the governor's palace to be executed. And even in those intense final moments, he's not crying for himself. His last, tearful act is turning his face toward Medina, whispering a desperate warning to his imam: do not come to Kufa. Just incredible selflessness.
Hussein gets this crushing news at a place called Zubala. And this is where his character is just unmatched. Historically, it's noted that he was actually offered supernatural help, armies of angels and jinns, offering to totally crush his enemies so he wouldn't even have to lift a finger. But he says no. He chooses to rely entirely on God's will. He wasn't looking for a miraculous shortcut. He embraced this incredibly grueling destiny to set a timeless, undeniable moral standard for humanity.
Section 5. Compassion for the enemy. Picture this. Hussein's caravan, which is super vulnerable right now, is traveling through the blistering, unforgiving desert sun. Out of nowhere, they're intercepted by a 1,000-man opposing army led by a commander named Hur. These guys were sent to capture or kill Hussein. But there's a massive twist. This enemy force has completely run out of water. The soldiers, their horses, they are literally collapsing, dying of thirst right in front of Hussein's eyes.
Now, almost any other commander would see this as a huge strategic advantage, right? Just let the enemy perish. But Hussein, he commands his people, give them our water, quench the thirst of the soldiers, and give water to their horses as well. He literally goes over and helps a trembling enemy soldier drink from a water skin himself. His supreme character was so powerful that it compelled him to save the very men sent to destroy him.
And this is what makes it so beautifully yet tragically poignant. That exact same precious water, freely and generously given to his captors out there in the desert, would be mercilessly, absolutely denied to Hussein's own small children just a few days later on the plains of Karbala. The juxtaposition there, this absolute, breathtaking generosity against horrific cruelty, is just wild.
So it really brings us to this final thought. If true victory is measured by character rather than conquest, who really won the Battle of Karbala? Look, Yazid had the massive army, the gold, the whole empire, but his legacy is just tyranny. Hussein, on the other hand, gave up everything he had, his home, his sanctuary, his life, but his moral victory literally echoes through eternity. It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? In our own lives, when we're forced to choose between our deeply held values and our own comfort, which path are we going to take? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep exploring, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.